Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Novogratz, and this is Next with Novo. This is Mike Novogratz on a special edition of Next with Novo with one of my favorite artists, Urs Fischer. This is pretty exciting. It came up quick, partly because Urs has got an NFT project that's going to kind of blast onto the space really soon. But before I even get to NFTs, Urs, first, welcome. And I want to, I started this podcast because I thought I had this unique privilege of meeting so many interesting people, and I wanted to kind of share those experiences with my audience. And so let's start about who you are, born in Switzerland, and why you became an artist, how you became an artist.
Okay, so I was born a longer time ago in Switzerland, and Switzerland is a strange place. Things are very orderly, So if you are a kid there and you like to create a little mess here and there, you got to find a way to do it. And I think that's what I still think art making is, So you rearrange the universe a little bit in an order that you like to see it in. So you have a sense of control. So I started when I don't know when I really became an artist, or if I still believe in that word as that you are one thing, It's just it's more a way of thinking and a way of interacting with the world. I probably started when I was 14, 15 to find, a kind of an interest in many fields, like first photography and then, building things, doing things, just interacting, basically. And that led me down a path, encountering my first laptop that I bought when I was 17. It was like, I think in 92, some Apple laptop that was very clunky and, and saved a lot of money to get that. And then there were the text programs on there and, no drawing programs. But because I was not really a writer, I started to use all these frames and the letters to kind of make drawings, as I would do when I find a pen or whatever I do. It's basically the same kind of interacting. So, and from then on, I just, went out in the world, met people and do things,
I've looked at lots of different art, and there are very few that work in as many different mediums as you do, from giant clay sculptures to digital stuff. And you were in digital art way before a lot of established artists were, right? There are not that many Gagosian, stable artists that were doing digital stuff, partly because easy to counterfeit. How do you prove provenance? Lots of different reasons. And so it's intuitive to me why you're moving into the NFT space earlier. But talk, before you get there, a little bit about how you make everything your canvas.
I believe, most ideas you have, or most urges to do something, you find a way, you find how to overcome obstacles to achieve something. So that's where the digital parts came in early for me in a way as just a tool. Like, this thing can do something I cannot do otherwise. You can just use it. And what happened in a lot of art, in the classic or contemporary art, or whatever, however we frame that, is people use computers at some point, and then they eventually print that thing out, or like make it a tangible thing, which is not what it was meant to be. And what's interesting to me is that we are in a time, mainly after pretty much everybody spent a year on front of their computer or whatever tablet, and starting to communicate on a screen. And that's also the time where people over a sudden understand that digital medium can be validated, and that came to a broader understanding that some people were thinking about this for many years now. I don't know how many years, but this coincides makes a lot of sense to me,
Because of COVID, because everyone was stuck in their house, we kind of catapulted into the metaverse. And now we all live a little bit in the metaverse, but you're one of the first guys that are seeing this to say, hey, I'm going to create art that lives in this metaverse. Yeah, you can maybe have a screen that the NFT can be on display at your house, but a lot of it's meant to stay in this digital format and maybe live in a digital world with a digital art, museum or a digital library in your house or a man cave.
Yeah, I think you saw there are different people try to figure out what's possible within this new this new framework, and there is different ways to go about it, and it definitely brings in a whole new set of people that can just work from home with a computer or and can reach out, and I think that part is super interesting, that it opens up everything that has been pretty gated. I think in some way, the way I go about it is not that different than I go about it in anything else I do. Let's say I would make a sculpture out of bronze, very traditional sculpture. I would use the medium and I would do it in a way that it would last. So it would need to withstand environmental things like frost, sun, rain, pollution. And if I do it right, this thing will exist for a long time, so it doesn't fall apart. Now, if you think of the same thing as in a digital medium, how do you ensure that, because there are no physical properties attached to the work, how do you ensure you do the same thing? So you really got to think about what your data is and how that could be displayed, how you don't exclude things we don't even have a clue. You need to think about all kind of possibilities of how worlds will overlap or separate or coexist, and to kind of ensure that your work can survive in that environment. So it's not the frost, it's not the rain, it's not the snow, it's like the changes in technology.
So let's talk about your project. It's exciting. The first NFT is auctioned on Fair Warning, right? This week?
This project goes back a longer time. It's just a manifestation of I thought about a lot as a teenager how it started then that I saw, let's say you have one object and you have something else, and when I see the glasses, everybody sees something else. So I see, sure, glasses, but I also might think of my dad that wore it, or I might think of my grandmother or whatever, like you associate different stuff with everything you encounter. And so I started to think about the two things exist basically within one thing, or the existence of one object, the physical space it takes up in the tangible world is also, it's not one thing, it's also something else, and it's something else for everybody, because we always bring our story to everything. We are basically story people, more so than anything else. We see a story in everything. So then I started by hand to carve things and try to squish them together, and to have this, and that looked very clumsy, because then I was like, how would I do this if something intersects, like whatever, and you had to carve it out and paint it and spackle it, and it was kind of clumsy. And then I started to work with my first scan data from three-dimensional stuff that we scan from real life things, and because there are no physical properties in a three-dimensional object, when it's digitized, it was automatic that these things just intersect. Well, that's what it is. They just fit together because there is nothing there. It's all a story. This idea never left me, and that I could add motion, because when we move things, there is motion. So that's one segment of what this project is. It's all objects that can intersect. That's one segment. Another segment is the metamorphosis. So we scan everything in my studio. We scan it, we color map it, and I select all type of different objects. And we are very strange people, because we have a lot of artifacts. It almost seems the more things get extinct in nature and in real life, the more we invent new things. It almost goes like at the same time. By scanning it, instead of rebuilding it, so I don't rebuild these objects. I actually scan them and I make the metamorphosis into a digital form. In the first part of this work, we have the whole project involves 1,000 things, and they are from everyday things to more obscure things to industrial components, just stuff. They involve cultured things like vegetables and whatnot, everything that has been engineered and cultured in any possible way. So I try to find as broad a picture as possible to tell a story. There's older stuff, there's brand new stuff. There are juxtapositions of two elements that come together. In each of the whole thing is there are 501 parts to this artwork.
So each piece has it's the egg and the big lighter, and then it's something and something.
It's a pairing, exactly. So these pairings, I made a render with motion of each of these pairings, but logically we put in all the raw material to create any other form or any other form of how this could manifest itself. So we share what I made, and we share the two objects and a set of rules of how somebody can reinterpret that. I strongly believe the two worlds will unite. The metaverse and the real world will become one.
We have that debate often here.
And just, I mean, that's maybe a very personalized view. I just imagine some of these sculptures in 20 years, you open your fridge and you can have that egg next to your eggs because you want to put it there, and it moves, and you go somewhere and you can have it somewhere in your real world, or you can make it very big, put it in your garden, and you can render it and change the motion, and you can have it in a light that goes with the light of your sunset in your garden. There is so many ways of how that could be seen.
Well, what's so unique about an NFT and its conceptual view is I always thought I could buy it out on a gallery and I could pull it off the gallery and put it on my phone, and then I could go home and I could play it here and I could take it with me like it's my friend, and it could exist where I want it to exist, but it can't exist anywhere else, which is so unique, which gives it its value. There's lots of companies working on how we should display NFTs, right? Right now, you can't go to Samsung and buy a great NFT display. I've seen some. My daughter sent me a picture in LA. This Korean company has made these giant screens you can display your NFTs on. There are not that many places where I can say, hey, Urs, meet me in the metaverse at my man cave, and we'll go into my man cave and all my art's on the wall and we can have a coffee. But I've seen the prototypes. Those are all coming. And so I think in 1, 2, 3 years, the possibility of how we interact with our digital art, our digital collectibles, our digital music is going to be very, very different than it is today. And so going slow makes a whole lot of sense to me. Do you think you found this new medium and it's exciting to you?
The way I understand it, I don't particularly like the idea of an art world,
Yep.
I like to share, and I like people that share, and that is definitely really enticing in this situation, is that there are no gatekeepers. That gives so much more room to communicate. I did pieces like, I don't know if you ever saw that, I did pieces where I had like thousands of people participating in something that worked with clay. So we just say, we give a simple framework. I say we use this clay and everybody does whatever they want. And that left like a crazy landscape of people's ideas, and some were very ambitious and they made big things and came back every day, and you do that over 5-6 weeks with maybe 2,000-3,000 people, and they all leave their mark in a giant space. And what you're left with is like the nuttiness of everything. And so that is also not really a traditional artwork in its sense. It is, you could say, it has a certain rigor of how the framework is set up, but it's really about communication and about having fun rather than like an object that is done in a masterly way, No,
I think community involvement is one of the big openings that the digital NFT space gives. And we've already seen some projects where, people can buy squares of a painting, and you might only get 11 squares of the painting bill, and then and that becomes the painting, or people can participate. It will be really interesting to see how this medium changes the engagement around community in art. So is that part? I mean, that could be part of your plan, to engage.
It's even part of this chaos series is to have there is different ways of how you can interpret it. You can always fall back on what I put together, but there is, as I said earlier, you can interpret it any way you want. There is a set of guidelines. And then I will bring in different people now already as we release them to all from all kind of walks of life to interpret my work already as we release them. So the whole thing is something that is not like set. I want to continuously have fun with it and just let it move, you know. There is the capstone piece in a way of the 501 where I where all the 1,000 objects detangle from their individual pairing, and they will just float around like a madness, you know, a madness of mankind, you know.
Listen, you sell your stuff in the non-digital world or the non-NFT world for millions at times. Now you're going into a whole new world. How do you any sense of how this is going to get priced? Do you care how price points will be?
Doesn't matter. I mean, we start at the $1,000 and see. It doesn't matter. I mean, it will just be what it is, you know.
That's why I love artists.
I like this because it doesn't have that gatekeeping and the prizes being made by very few people. It is a public arena, and I actually prefer that.
I completely think so. I've spent so much time on my day now in this whole NFT.
I thought recently of, like, you know, whenever I have all these conversations with people from the, you know, the traditional art world, and they just don't understand. So I had a friend over yesterday, in his early 60s, a famous curator, came, and I tried to explain the project before he didn't listen. Then my daughter comes out, 11, 12, and she was talking about some gems she just bought in some game, and she traded that in for something else. And she was so excited about it all. And then all of a sudden, my friend understood. It's like, yeah. Everything I tried to explain, the kids don't care about. They care about the values in the game. And the same, you know, you remember Fort Knox, and I always, that James Bond, when you had the Fort Knox and they tried to steal all the gold. And the idea, like, there is all this gold in this building. So that's why your dollar is worth something, because we have a building full of metal.
No, I have been selling the Bitcoin story, and I always say, this is a true story, true fact. You can take all the gold in the history of the world that's ever been mined, and it fits in a 55-foot cube, 19 meter cube, 19 by 19 by 19. And I was like, if that was a sculpture and we put it in the middle Central Park, it wouldn't even be that big, right? It's like 2 times my room, and it's worth $10 trillion. That's just insanity, right? And so value is just what we say it is. And you can instill value in my little, you know, Star Wars guy here, or gold, or a Bitcoin, or an NFT. And so this idea that we're changing how we think about value is pretty cool.
There are a lot of interesting questions there. I ask because it's part of what I meant earlier. Like, how do you ensure that it will stay?
Yes.
There are actually really big questions, and we deal for a longer time with digital archiving now, and which was a really big problem. Like, how do you, we digitized everything, and how do you store that?
Right. The wonderful thing is, I actually fundamentally believe that some of these blockchains, the Ethereum blockchain in particular, will last forever. And so when there's a technical question, you're going to issue an NFT, and the key is going to go to the blockchain. But will all the bytes, all the code that creates the NFT live there, or live in a separate database? Will the blockchain just give you access to that database? Well, then it's not as secure. Or will it live on the blockchain? When it lives on the blockchain, the data is secured by every different node out there. The database is the same. And so if you have 1,000 nodes or 10,000 nodes or 20,000 nodes, you're really guaranteed that stuff never dies. And so this is really wonky technical stuff, but it becomes important as we put more and more value on these blockchains that we're putting them on the right blockchains and that they're distributed enough that someone just can't control them. Listen, this has been awesome. I can't wait for your auction. Fair warning to everybody on my audience, I'm going to be bidding because I think it'd be very cool to at least participate in Urs's first digital auction. I think it's monumental for the NFT space. Just the stuff that you've done, the conceptual stuff you've done over the last 15 years is pretty groundbreaking. And so to have you as part of the NFT world, I think every NFT collector, from whale shark to who knows, is going to be at least looking at this with keen eyes. And so, guys, stay tuned. And Urs, thanks a ton. Really appreciate you coming on.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks a lot. This has been Next with Novo.